This episode is brought to you by Ferrero. Soccer's biggest stage is approaching, and Ferrero is making it easy to go all in. Pick any two Ferrero brands from Kinder Bueno to Ferrero Rocher, and you could win the $1 million grand prize, plus an exciting range of daily and weekly prizes. Don't miss your shot. Official rules apply. Learn more at goallinandwin.com.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup.
All right, welcome in everybody to this week's edition of the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation news from across the nation for the week of April 6th, 2026. Our lead story this week, we're going to get an update from Senior Director of Fisheries Policy from Chris Horton on the Senate bill bringing up language for the Sportfish Restoration Act and Reauthorization. But first, we're going to hit these headlines real quick from across the country, and then we will kick it over to Chris. Heading over to Kansas, CSF-supported suppressor clarification bill passes in the Kansas House. Legislators in Kansas State House of Representatives passed House Bill 2501, legislation that would reconcile any potential issue with state statutes that may arise if suppressors are no longer regulated through the NFT. Again, more continued success with that effort and getting states cleared up with that. In South Carolina, the CSF priority hunting access legislation moves forward. Efforts to establish a no-net loss of public hunting acreage in South Carolina will protect the ability of sportsmen and women to enjoy time-honored traditions, this being, as the audience knows, one of our top 10 policy priorities here at CSF, proactively introducing that, engaging with the legislative sportsmen's caucuses where this is applicable and they don't have it, and securing access for years to come. In Colorado, a bipartisan effort defeats public land beaver trapping. Colorado House Bill 1323, wildfire resiliency prohibiting taking of beavers, was a bill that would have banned all public land harvest of beavers for recreational or commerce purposes. Good win there in Colorado. Man, that state's got its issues here in the last few years, so especially around fur bears and trapping. In Massachusetts, CSF opposes legislation that could ban hunting and fishing on wildlife management areas. The Massachusetts legislature considered 3 bills. CSF is hopeful that the significant negative impacts on wildlife habitat management and access for sportsmen and women will be considered. We got this, and it's not relegated to the Northeast, but there's this idea of this preservationist philosophy with old growth stands and then wanting to preserve them, and the misconception on what is forest management versus what is actually forest management. And in doing so, putting glass bubbles are essentially around these spots and cutting off all access and all management. So that from John Colclaser, our director of forestry. In Maryland, there's the latest Airfinger quote syntax attempt is dead once again for now. We're talking about House Bill 197 and its cross-file Senate Bill 118, which sought to impose an additional 11% excise tax on firearm dealers and the sale of firearms, accessories, and ammo to fund gun violence prevention and intervention programs. This is copy-paste stuff. Every session, it seems now, we are seeing this language pop up in multiple states looking to fund these violence funds and being discriminate insofar as targeting our community, lawful participants and purchasers of these items that are already taxed at that 10 to 11% manufacturer level excise tax, funding conservation efforts for all. And these sin taxes buck up against that and put that in harm's way, pricing people out of the market. Finally, science-based solution introduced for cormorant management, providing states with flexible science-based management tools to ensure localized issues can be addressed effectively while maintaining sustainable population levels. I am curious as to what a sustainable population level is for cormorants, considering they are everywhere. At least on the coast. That also from Chris Horton, and you can check that all out on congressionalsportsman.org. Again, congressionalsportsman.org. There you can go sign up for the EPUB edition of the Sportsman's Voice and get that in your inbox every single Monday and Tuesday where there is a holiday. I saw a story recently outside of the U.S. where there is active harvest of cormorants. It's kind of treated just like well, they are waterfowl, right? But like how we treat waterfowl season and ducks and stuff like that, they're kind of lumped in there. So kind of a wild thing. But those birds, man, freshwater and salt, but the freshwater, especially with the trout stocking programs and other game, cold water species and warm water species, they just wreak havoc when they get in there. So check that out by Chris and see what that management plan looks like. All right, now let us turn to our lead story and welcome in Senior Director of Fisheries Policy, Chris Horton. Chris, welcome back once again. We've got some updates in the Senate as it concerns the Sport Fish Restoration Fund.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Fred. Yeah, got some news there. Want to report to everybody, so I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, let's dive into it. We've got a new Senate language introduced. Senators Dan Sullivan and Maria Cantwell out of Washington are taking this up.
Yes, there are champions in the Senate side. There are a total of 7 co-sponsors in all, and many of them are Sportsmen's Caucus members. But the Sport Fish Restoration and Boating Trust Fund, that's the excise tax on all our fishing tackle and marine fuels and small engine fuels that comes back to the state natural resource agencies for fisheries management, for boating access. I mean, it's a cornerstone of the American system of conservation funding. So they use these federal dollars in combination with license fees to basically fund their fisheries divisions within these agencies. So it's critical that we make sure that it gets reauthorized every 5 years. And the interesting thing is that the fishing tackle component doesn't technically have to be reauthorized, but it's the marine fuel tax that came along in the 1984 Wallet-Brough Amendment, which provided a tremendous boost to the fund. That has to be reauthorized along with the Highway and Transportation Bill. So that is due for reauthorization by September 30th of 2026, because the last reauthorization was in 2021 in the Bill Act, or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Big long title there, but we were able to get it reauthorized then, and so we're moving forward now. The House version has already cleared committee, and it's teed up and ready to go. Again, technically it moves with the Highway and Transportation Bill, so we're in a good position there. So Senate side, the Senate has recently introduced their version, and they're pretty much identical. There's a couple minor differences. There's a bait bucket tax that is in the House version, not in the Senate version, but all those things will be worked out in conference whenever they are both passed. But one of the challenges, just real quick on the bait bucket, it's been bait buckets that have an aerator attached to a bucket for keeping bait alive. If they're sold together, they're taxed at the 10% rate, which is what's on the other fishing tackle. But if you buy an aerator and a bucket separately, those aren't taxed. So those companies that are specifically designing and making bait buckets are a little bit at a competitive disadvantage. They don't want to not pay the tax, but just reduce that tax a little bit. So we want to get that down to like 3%, which is more doable for them. Total dollars that we would lose in that regard is very, very small. But the flip side is we're hoping to make up for that for a similar related bill called the Excise Tax Sporting Goods Excise Tax Modernization Act, which would basically, we've talked about it before, but that basically closes a loophole that allows foreign manufacturers to sell direct to U.S. consumers right on their doorstep and evade the tax. So once we get that fixed, and there's strong bipartisan support for that, that's going to be a substantial boost to the fund. So the bait bucket issue is not one that's going to impact state agency funding, and we're hoping to get a boost out through the Sporting Goods Excise Tax Modernization Act. But yeah, big thanks to Senator Sullivan and Senator Cantwell for getting us started on the Senate side. And the whole key here is the sport fish restoration reauthorization is, I mean, it's strongly bipartisan, always has been. The problem is, even though it's a lot of money to us in the big scheme of things related to the highway bill, it's a rounding error. So we have to consistently make sure that it's front and center with legislators and they don't forget to put it in there. So
Yeah. I mean, you read my mind there earlier, bringing in the loophole there for the foreign manufacturers and the online sales, and it really just feels like in the last, I don't know, 12 or 15 months, that we really found some deficiencies in the program and what's been going on. I mean, we celebrated 75 years last year, and still things to update, which is great. We're isolating them and we're updating them, and we have support in the legislature, and I think more importantly, the support in the community. People understand it. Just fishing in and of itself is just so much more. I don't want to say complicated, but it feels that way as it pertains to gear and new technologies, and this bucket thing. Pairing it together, not pairing it together, is that people maybe circumventing on purpose, but it is far more nuanced than hunting. I mean, we have all our stuff, but it all feels like it's pretty well buttoned up until the next thing comes along, I suppose. But it's great to see these things coming together and having it more streamlined. And like you said, it's pretty innocuous, a rounding error. So it stands to reason. Like let's just put this through. The world is so volatile right now. It's like, okay, can we just get this stuff
yes,
through?
yeah.
Um,
I'm fairly confident again that we won't experience any issues, that we will get it reauthorized again. But again, we just have to be persistent, and we're part of a group that we've been a part of. CSF has been a part of ever since it started. But many years ago, during these reauthorization processes, Congress said, okay, the community, the boating and fishing community need to come together. Y'all bring us what you need changed or the tweaks, and that's what we'll run with, because apparently there were different decades ago, there were different factions coming with different ideas, and Congress just said, no, y'all form the Anglian Boating Alliance. And so we're part of that Anglian Boating Alliance that begins. We start looking at reauthorization 2 to 3 years out, just so that we're teed up and ready to go when the highway bill does move. But yeah, there's little nuances here and there, and thinking about it, long term, this has been a highly successful system for the last 75 years. But looking in the future, how do we make sure we ensure the solvency of the program, because it is so important to the states? The highway bill basically is set to potentially go red in I think the prediction is 2030 or 2032. So are they going to increase fuel taxes? Or are they going to look at different types of funding mechanisms, long term? If there is an impact to that fuel tax, then that's going to have an impact to the fund. So we need to be thinking about long term. Are there other things on the list that we need to be looking at potentially for excise taxes that benefit fish and wildlife and the public in general? And that's something that the Sport Fish and Boating Partnership Council, which is an advisory council to the Secretaries of Interior and Commerce, we were working on that before the transition from the last administration to this one, and we're just now getting the council back up and going. But we are going to the plan there was to put together a group of experts and stakeholders and start looking down the road as how do we make sure that we we maintain this critical pot of money and keep it growing.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't want to put you on the spot with this question, but I do wonder, where it is tied up in such a bigger bill and how it works. Is it feasible to have this thing ever stand alone so that it can just be focused, or does that not
Well,
make
again,
sense?
the fishing tackle component of it is standalone. It's that marine fuel tax, which again counts for
Right,
over
right. I should have
60,
clarified.
65%, sometimes a little bit higher than that of the total fund. Right now, there's no way to separate that and be able to maintain those fuel tax dollars, because it's generated through an estimate of marine fuels sold each year. So right now we're tied at the hip to it. So, but are there opportunities to be able to capture some of that funding in another format? We don't know, but that's something we've got to explore.
Okay.
So, but the boating industry has been strongly. I mean, National Marine Manufacturers Association, Boat US, a number of the national boating groups strongly supportive of the program and want to see it continue as well. So, we're working hand in hand to try to make sure that we protect what we've got now and look down the road to make sure it's protected in the future.
Well, very good. We'll look forward to updates here and hopefully, continued success with our issues, making it to the executive desk and getting things through despite, all the noise in the world right now. So we'll continue to take those wins and champion those when they come and look forward to that update.
Absolutely. Thanks, Fred.
All right. Yep. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.